Hello, this is Ruslan Malinovsky.
Hello, this is Roman Yaremchuk.
Hello, I'm Sergey Rebro.
And you're listening to Ukraine Plus Football.
It's a new year. We're deep into the winter break, and all clubs have returned from their December breaks and vigorously preparing for the second halves of their domestic campaigns. And I do love a good, vigorous preparation, I have to say, gentlemen. Some are in Ukraine, many are in Turkey, and others are in Spain. Meanwhile, a chosen couple of former giants will play competitive football in January for the very first time. And of course, amidst all of the training camps, there's plenty of movement to, from, in between and beyond in the transfer window. All that and more to come in the first episode of 2025 of the Ukraine Plus Football podcast.
Це просто золоті вже секунди. Подача з флангу. Сікан! Сікан! 2-1! Сікан забиває! Данило Сікан головою!
Now, of course, Shakhtar and Dynamo will continue their participation. I choose the word participation over competing in European action over the next 2 weeks. Shakhtar have been in the news a lot over the last few weeks because perhaps their star is starting to fade a little bit as Krupskyi has chosen to turn his eyes elsewhere in developing his career. Now, Andrew, is it really believable that he wanted to drop down to the second tier instead of going off to Shakhtar? What is going on there?
I mean, we spoke about this in the last episode of 2024 about the initial interest from New England Revolution, and then the fact that he actually didn't want to go there because there were questions about whether he'd be able to, settle in there on his own because it's so far away and all that kind of thing, whether he'd be able to get called up to the national team from there, when we've seen the likes of Krivtsov even getting recalls when he moved. And I mean, that evidently played a role, and he rejected New England Revolution despite the fact that clubs had agreed fees and all that kind of stuff. He wanted to play in Europe. That was the main thing that was coming out of his agent and all that kind of stuff. And it went quiet a bit before we heard that Shakhtar and maybe apparently Dynamo were in for him, but Dynamo couldn't afford him, as we all know. They were prepared to be paying anywhere near 3 million for him. So it ended up being that Shakhtar were the ones that were apparently courting him. However, I think the main question, on everyone's lips was, what does Shakhtar need him for? They've got Konoplia. They've got Vinicius Tobias, who is recently at Real Madrid, albeit B team, but still allegedly got quite a lot of promise. What did they then need to buy a €3 million defender for from Vorskla? Question was there. Then some crazy evening a couple weeks ago, a week ago or something, where we heard that Metalist 925 were in for him. Then Shakhtar were in some kind of bidding war. Shakhtar apparently ended up paying or offering double the salary that Metalist 925 were offering. Krupskyi rejected it all, and he opted for Metalist 925. But bear in mind, guys, it's all apparently official that he's moved there or he's joining there. But as of recording, there's not actually been an official announcement. But I think it's as good as done, as far as I'm aware. I guess the main question is now, how have Shakhtar, who obviously traditionally, and even, the likes of Dynamo in the past, how are those two unable to attract a promising young talent like that nowadays, despite offering him obviously a big package financially and all that kind of thing? And It's not the first time it's happened. Obviously, we saw Hryhorchuk, who Shakhtar wanted or had first option, first reserve to buy him back from Dnipro 1 in the summer, but he rejected them as well and went to Dynamo. Albeit, at least Dynamo's playing in the UPL. The question is here, like Metalist 925, they're in Persha. Yes, they're very ambitious. They've got their own amount of money. Apparently, the co-owner, Bogdan Boyko, is slightly the lesser of the two evident personalities, slightly less known to the media as well. He had played a big role in persuading Krupskyi to go there. And now he is going to be either playing in Persha for the remainder of this season and potentially going up with them if they get promoted. Not guaranteed, by the way. Or there's also rumours from Tata Tuke and the likes that he could be going on loan somewhere to like of a Rakov in Poland or somewhere similar to play out the remainder of this season. I would even say, why not leave him at Vorskla? Just let him play the remainder of the season there. What's the problem? Especially seeing as apparently Vorska's replacement that they want to buy from Chornomorets Moritz is having problems because he's already played for two clubs this season. So, I mean, I've seen photos of Krupskyi literally as of the past few days in training with Vorska still. But yeah, I mean, the main story is that Shakhtar, seemingly their magnetas, their gravitational pull, their, you can't turn them down. It's kind of shifting. That's what I'm seeing. And I guess the real question is why and how. And how serious is it? Because obviously this is two players now, Ukrainian ones per se. Foreign ones, I think, is a completely different question or whole different subject.
Oh, no, I definitely agree. And to be honest, it's great to see as well a bit of a challenge there to the sort of the dynasty that has marked the Ukrainian transfer market. I mean, Michael, I'm going to come across to you here, mate. We've seen Shakhtar's struggles in the first half of the season, and now with these transfer movements, a few other rumours going around of Karpov not going through, Sikan's transfer having sold Kelsy as well. Do you see this as not just a fading of the light, or perhaps the start of a new era of Ukrainian football?
Yeah, like we've always been saying, that second spot is probably going to be up for grabs in Ukraine, and I think it's extremely worrying times for Shakhtar. Even the transfer market they're having now, I thought they needed to get a centre back and a centre defensive mid in, some blockbuster signings, get them in and show people where they're truly at. But I don't think they're doing that. The confidence is going. They're not having a good transfer window. Even the centre back they signed, the Juan Rodriguez, or they're planning to sign, it's a risky South American move. It's cheap. It's hit and miss. It's rarely going to pay off, and it's not the signing that's going to really put them back into the title charge. So I think it is worrying times, and potentially not even going to make the Champions League. So it is, yeah.
I mean, there's rumours, am I right, Andrew, of the 15 million euro Brazilian forward coming in. It's for me personally, it all reads bad. We're seeing Ukrainian talent like Ocheretko being sent out on loan. Other internationals, Sikan looking at like moving to Turkey, and they've got a successful youth project there. They produce good players. Now, where is the next generation coming through? Why aren't they given the chance, and why are they spending this money on foreigners? Surely there's better to be done there. It really is. And yeah,
just feels like there's not really a proper, how would you say it, projection going forward of what the club wants to do, or maybe there's just uncertainty around the fact that they might not be getting the Champions League, and maybe there's not been a realization of what that not qualifying for it next year, for example, might bring to the club, because evidently they're going to be 40 plus million down if they don't make the group stage. If they win the league, which at the moment 10 points off seems unlikely, realistically. It's problematic. It's problematic for Shakhtar. I don't think that they've really accepted the sort of current realities of where it's at. And like you say, they're going for these risky signings. Mike mentioned that Uruguayan centre-back that they want to bring in, 19. Really, that's inexperience. He's highly rated, so fair enough from that perspective. But it's another person to throw in, at the deep end and see if it sticks, because at least from the sort of South American perspective, you can hope that the quality is slightly higher than the kind of randoms that, Shakhtar have been signing, like Miroshi and who is it? Husrav, that guy from Tajikistan, I can't even remember his name. Hram from Tunisia. They're very, very rogue transfers that I feel that there's just a feeling that pointless / very uncharacteristic. Shakhtar look to be going back towards what they know best, Brazilian and South American experts. But if this 15 million forward isn't experienced or a prolific goal scorer, it's like, really? You're spending that much money on a new centre forward, which you desperately need because you've just sold Kelsy for 6 million. I would have personally tried to keep him because, in my opinion, he's probably the best centre forward that they have. Or had. And now with Sikan going to Trabzonspor, I think that's under 10 million in terms of fees. They're going to be left with Lassina Traore, who's also being linked with moves away. What's going on right now? And I mean, like you mentioned, they've got an academy, but none of those players are ready to step up to any senior level because hardly any of them have got any minutes under Pusic thus far. Because evidently he's under risk of losing his job if he gives more time to them. And I mean, another question from the Krupskyi thing. Shakhtar have got quite a good, promising right-back in Drozd in their under-19s team, who very much I could see stepping up in the next season or two. So that's another right-back that they've got. It all just seems very convoluted and like, why is any of this happening? I'm very much baffled, and I mean, this Krupskyi thing, I feel that certainly it's maybe taken them a hit from a slight sort of image perspective that they have not been able to lure him in there. But they've still got plenty of time in this window, fortunately, because I don't think the Ukrainian window ends at the end of January. It carries on into February, so they've got plenty of time to bring in more players, which I feel that they probably will. The question is, will any of them be good enough? And we could be seeing against Dortmund in next week their last Champions League game for a while.
Definitely so. And I mean, probably one final question on this. If the window doesn't work out, now I've mentioned it before, but do serious questions get asked about the role of Dario Serna? Now, he is a club legend, we know that, but he seems to have always had his hand in the things that have gone wrong over the last few years.
Maybe he might be the one that gets the chopping block if it isn't successful.
I mean, Adam, if you mentioned the things gone wrong with Shakhtar recently, do you mean Mudryk transfer? I mean, for the guy, it definitely went out wrong, but I would say my question is, to back up your question, my question would be, how could Sikan even consider going to Trabzonspor? What is in Turkey? Jose Mourinho. That would be my reason to go. But it's far away from Istanbul, Trabzonspor. And Kashuk, yes, he's playing in Karabakh. And we've been talking before the recording about him that, yeah, it's a good move. He's scoring there, so he might show up in Europa League, and not the way Yaremchuk shows up on a rainy day when you have to score to a certain goalkeeper, right? Or save the country at Euros. But Kashuk is actually another prospect from Shakhtar who was banned from the team. They wanted to roast him, if that's an English word for that, in reserves because he didn't want to sign anything. And I also remember Bogdan Vunik from Shakhtar, who is now, I believe, in
Lechia
Poland.
Gdańsk.
Okay, so that guy, and we might want to hear from them. How do they feel about, what's going on inside the club? Because maybe Shakhtar is not actually an academy club after all. It's, as we've been talking about South American experts and everything. Strange vector, if you ask me, still, especially now. But we're going to elaborate on that more later when we touch on other clubs.
Now, before we jump on to Dynamo, quick question. Do we see any points in the games against Brest or Dortmund over the next couple of weeks?
I'm not hopeful. I don't even think I really want to watch it at the minute. All I'm asking is just get a bit of discipline, get that defensive shape sorted, because it's been embarrassing to watch for Shakhtar. And you're playing Brest, who've got that momentum, they're a team in confidence, and they're running with it. So just get back to the basics. Do you know what I mean? Don't feel the pressure, and just go out there and give a performance that looks respectable, if that's the very least that you can do.
I don't know,
So-
Adam, if your question was about respectable football, which Nottingham Forest is showing right now, like straight counterattacks, not possessing the ball at all, maybe we should go for there. But I would watch that definitely. I couldn't agree with Mike because as a person abroad, as a Ukrainian abroad, I love watching those, Zbirna live streams when they just, invite guys and just, crack jokes about the old times. That's a great experience anytime. So just for that, no matter the result, I'm watching.
Well, I mean, I suppose we have to acknowledge the fact that Brest are on a run of quite a heavy fixture list for French teams at the moment with their cup games at the moment. They won midweek and they've got a league game Saturday. Then there's the European matches, which they're pushing for a top 8. Dortmund, I mean, at the moment look like one of the worst Dortmund sides in a very long time, don't they? Here in Luxembourg, they're quite a big club, and the Dortmund fans I talk to are very down in the dumps about the way their team's playing at the moment. So who knows? Who knows? It might be worth watching for more than the jokes, Ray. In 10 days' time, I think it is at time of recording. Now, Dynamo's a couple of, I wouldn't say club legends, but they seem to have been there for a very long time. Shep and Andriyevskyi have accepted stage left. Was it expected, Mike?
Yeah, pretty much. I don't think it's any real loss. Going on to get some more game time. They just need to get some squad players in to replace them, realistically. I don't really know much about the trialists, if I'm being brutally honest, but I can't see anyone of any names or concrete, so just have to wait and see. But again, it's a different story to Shakhtar, isn't it? Like, these are the top of the league. They've got a decent-ish balanced squad. So I don't think it's as important to bring in a big name or anything. So just see what it brings up.
Well, speaking of those trialists, actually, you don't have to get to know them too well anyway, Mike, because they're already or are likely to be off back to their parent clubs or leaving the club anyway. Bogdan Slubik, we know him very well, one of the best centre-backs of last season. Been injured for most of the first half of this campaign, just coming back from it. We're going to touch on the Rukh Karpaty in a minute, but he was given a 2-week trial or a week and a half trial at Dynamo this window. He has been sent back to Rukh on the basis that Krupskyi said that the club like him, but he's probably not better than what they've currently got in the likes of Hryhorchuk, Bilovar, Popov, Mahavko. If you're saying that Slubik is not as good as Bilovar in particular, I'm just dumbfounded. But anyway, that's not happening. There are rumours that actually the real reason is probably because Rukh want too much money, and it's something that Dynamo probably can't afford, which seems more logical in this scenario. And then the other trialist was a guy called Ime Okon, South African centre-back as well. He was rumoured that he's also been sent away, in terms of he's not going to carry on, but he's apparently been given another week with the club. Maybe they might sign him just for the sake of it because he seems to be a free agent / on trial from a South African team. I assume it must be relatively cheap. Who knows? No new signings anyway can play in these two European fixtures in January, by the way. So any transfers that had been made or will be made before then are irrelevant anyway in the impact of them. But for Dynamo, it doesn't really matter because they're already out of Europe, as good as anyway. And, playing against is a very tough Galatasaray side. But like Mike says, they are looking pretty good for the league. Bialski, so far, Dynamo played 5 games in their early winter camp pre to these final 2 European fixtures. Lost 1, which was the first game, won 3, drew 1. Bialski scored a load in them. Van Aert was getting involved in some. So all in all, they seem to be all right. But I feel that it's another one of those about the exits, about the players that probably should be going somewhere but aren't. Shaparenko, not really heard anything about him. Is he going to leave? It seems unlikely. Maybe this window. Who knows? Rumours from Tata Tuke saying that Brashkov's getting concrete interest from a Premier League side. Let's see if all that somehow moves. But unless they're going to fork out big money, Dynamo want, which I assume is probably 20 million plus, then I doubt he's going to be going anywhere. So one to keep an eye out anyway, but just at the moment, nothing too exciting. Yeah, they've been linked with some other players, but I think we'll probably touch on them once they actually happen.
Actually, on topic of Brashko, I've been checking this CIS account of research group for football, and Sudakov and Brashko are both under 23, readiest for the next step midfielders in top 10. We've seen guys like Mikhavko in these ratings. We've seen, I believe, Rukh guys there as well. So this one doesn't prove anything. Like, let's be completely honest. It doesn't tell us anything, especially when you know how much Dynamo is going to ask for him. But, we're on the radar. Summing up this winter talk about Dynamo and Shakhtar, their transfer windows never actually worked for them. There were never big-time game changers signed in this period. So I think it's pretty pointless to hope for a change this year. And they want in winter break is just go somewhere warm and enjoy playing football, or not enjoy playing football, and then continue doing that in the Europa League or Champions League, But you talked about the exits from Dynamo, long time awaited exits, because Andriyevskyi, yes. The story about him, though, is that he wanted to go to LNZ. He told everybody that, and he ended up in Polissya, which was shown as a betrayal of Surkis and everyone involved. But in the grand scheme of things, who even cares, right? Shepard, we don't even know where he's gonna end up. This guy never had much personality on the football pitch. Let's be honest. Like, this guy who you would see leading a team or being this game changer, as I previously said, in any team's lineup, basically. So that's the guy you would expect to end up in Metalist 1925. But still, right? We don't know.
I just want to chime in there. Andriyevskyi, by the way, has completely disputed that story about him wanting to go to LNZ. That was initially originated by Ihor Borbas. Then Andriyevskyi disputed that story, saying that there was no gentleman's agreement, that he wouldn't go to Polissya or anything like that. He wrote a letter to Tribuna and said that he might threaten legal action. Then Surkis also came out with a statement on the official Dynamo website saying that there was no agreement of any kind and we wish him all the best. So just worth keeping that in mind. The old, the media games are in full throw. Between.
And when Surkis comes out in public, you could tell this is real.
Regarding Shepard, do you see him going to Turkey, Ray?
You mentioned, Adam, I think it was you like a couple of minutes ago, that you just want to do what you know best. So yeah, Turkey is definitely what our players know best. especially in the last 5 years. Why not?
Get himself a good payday. He's put in the years, definitely so. I don't even want to think about the game against Riga in a few weeks' time. That could be the sort of final nail in the European coffin. More bizarre goings on have been over in Western Ukraine this winter. I would argue quite strongly with the very surprising murder of Rukh Karpaty. It does seem to have gone through, as far as I've read. Gentleman, Michael, Ray, were you as surprised as me by what's going on there?
Yeah, to be honest, I think I settled down. I think, was it New Year's Eve? The news came through. I was just ready to see the new year in, and I saw the news come through. So it blew my mind a little bit. But they must have got together. It must be a smart business move, and they've looked at the finances, looked at the project, and thought this is the best thing for it to happen. But yeah, just a wild sort of transfer strategy, in my opinion, to sort of absorb your club, take the best players, and then make them a youth team. It's not something you see quite often, but I think it'll pay off really. With Karpaty, could probably take a few of the centre backs. We can definitely do with a couple of them. But yeah, I just think looking at how it's going forward in Ukrainian football as a whole, you know, we talk about clubs are just like merely like surviving out there, and if this is what needs to be done, however random and shocking it may be, then yeah, get it done. But RIP to the LVIV derby that we all loved watching so much, because I wanted to be in on that. I wanted to be with them kids in that stand shouting abuse at one another.
Well, truth be told, guys, you must remember 2021 when we went to another kind of LVIV derby. Back then it was FC Lviv, PKL, as they call it in Ukraine, and Rukh, and it was fierce, wasn't it?
Yeah, just about. Worth caveating everything that we've just mentioned. So there was this very shock statement that came out on New Year's Eve regarding the clubs coming together and all this kind of thing. However, I feel that statement was probably written by a very small circle of people who didn't really understand probably the footballing and sporting principle repercussions of making a statement like that midway through a season, on the basis that evidently Rukh still have to finish this campaign at a bare minimum. Does that mean that when they play Karpaty, is that going to be a guaranteed 3 points? Are they going to throw games for Karpaty against other opponents? Are they going to be more motivated, etc., etc.? First of all, there's talk of Hryhorchuk, the Rukh owner, apparently taking some kind of position in Karpaty. For people that know him, and a lot of people, you know, in the Lviv footballing circles say that that's very unlikely, because he's never one to be second in command or something else. However, there is, you know, rumors allegedly that he might be in some kind of trouble, hence why he's kind of come to a business agreement to maybe shift a lot of the assets to Karpaty. And Karpaty's owner is very mysterious, by the way, in terms of everyone knows Kozlovsky. He's always in the media, all that kind of stuff, interviews, you know, charismatic per se, and the likes.
Seriously?
Whereas, well, compared to other owners. However, Matkivsky is the Karpaty owner. He's very mysterious in terms of people don't even know what he looks like. Online, there aren't even photos of him. And as a result of that, he's apparently not a very footballing person, according to Hryhorchuk. And allegedly this move is to, rather than help build Ukrainian football or build it for Lviv, it's more just to eradicate competition from a business perspective. Hence, you merge together, you make one team. Karpaty have got the history, they've got the fan base, substantially bigger one. They've got multiple academies across Western Ukraine. And I think now, including in this weird merger thing. They're going to be based at Emily Resort, apparently. I'm not sure from when. Then the Rukh Academy is going to be moving out to Vinnytsia, going to be doing something there. It's all kind of very much up in the air. The club haven't really commented on anything other than that statement that came out on New Year's Eve. There's just rumours and talk and all that kind of thing. So I think it's something that we certainly need to be keeping tabs on. But if you're a Karpaty fan, probably good news. If I was going to say, at least for the very short term, because a fair few Rukh players are going to be going to Karpaty. The likes of Kvasnitsa, Fedor, Krasnopir, obviously one of Ray's favourite players, and Oleksiy Sich, who he's been linked with Dynamo this window, says he didn't really want to go there. Going Karpaty, apparently all part of some kind of package deal where Karpaty are going to pay for them, I guess, for cheaper than proper rate, and Kozlovsky's trying to cash in. It seems like Karpaty are going to be good value for, I guess, that third power, competing with Polissya, I think, at a bare minimum for the near foreseeable.
And that's
Right,
where
you look excited,
I have
mate.
to jump in. I have to jump in because I've been reading this materials on this topic, and people keep saying that Karpaty are coming onto Champions League. Karpaty are coming onto these two qualifying spots for Champions League in the nearest future. That's what I've seen. And I've also seen materials which deny this merge. No club becoming defunct, as in case of Rukh. Of course, it's a good way to get rid of the opponent, but do you remember when Veres played in UPL and then they became FC Lviv? Not so long ago. Do you remember what happened to Karpaty throughout the last 5 years? That's for sure. How many Karpatys were there? Do you remember that Kozlovsky was actually the one who wanted to resurrect Karpaty during COVID? And that was a real deal. He proclaimed himself as a longtime Karpaty fan. Now imagine something like that happening in lower English leagues. So we imagine two Lancashire clubs or two Yorkshire clubs merging. How possible is that?
Well, I'll actually give you an example, a topical one that's happening right now in, I think, Step 4, which is like the 8th tier or something like that, or something very low down. There's a team called Real Bedford, and there's a team called Bedford FC or Bedford Town. And Real Bedford are owned by the Winklevoss brothers.
They were the original Facebook guys.
Yeah, they're like crypto millionaires now. They fund that team, and they've got like a skull and crossbones logo and all that kind of stuff. And they want to merge with Bedford Town, who are obviously more fan-owned and have been around for much longer, but they've obviously got very big ambitions. So it seems like that's currently kind of happening there, but it's the opposite way around. Whereas Karpaty, in inverted commas, albeit maybe not on paper as the team from, from the 1960s, they are still the successors to the original Karpaty, to fans, right? So it's kind of the opposite way. Whereas it's kind of like if Rukh did the merger and took Karpaty away. Regardless, it's happening in English football, or at least being spoken about. But like you say, Ray,
that's non-pro, is it? That's non-pro.
No, it's not. But yeah,
and we're talking
if
UPL,
it was pro,
UPL.
it would have gone. It would have. I think it would actually go mental. But then again, Rukh is a relatively new club. You know what I mean? The fan base was growing from a younger perspective, but they're not the ones that are going to be protesting or objecting to anything because they're still going to school. And I feel that
that's because that's why they're going to protest. They have a lot of free time.
Yeah, exactly. But the main question is evidently what's going to happen to Rukh in the summer. Like you said there, Ray, some people are denying it. People are saying that Rukh will continue. They're apparently even being linked with players this window. So it's like that's how much we know right now. Absolutely nothing.
No, Rukh is not going to cease to exist, that's for sure, because Rukh has a fan base among media Ukrainian football. Remember, during COVID and with the full-scale invasion start in 2022, everyone were sort of sheltered. All the football people. The studios were in Lviv. UPL TV studios are all in Lviv.
No, but
for all we know.
now that's also under question. UPL
Oh, yeah.
TV is at Emily Resort
Oh,
and their bases, and it's obviously that's from Kozlovsky's empire of whatever his assets. So what's going to happen to that at the end of this season? Another question, or even this second half? We'll have to wait. We literally will have to wait and see, because yes, the center of Ukrainian football is Emily Resort.
Rukh's growth has over the last 5 years has been immense. I went to see them play in August of 2019 down against Balkan Zorya, and speaking to the Balkani staff that day, that was the first year they'd received investment, Rukh, when they were Rukh, and they said prior to that, Rukh had always been at Balkani level. For those of you who remember good old Balkani Zorya, that was really a village team playing on the village pitch, and they did a good stuff down there. But that's the level where Rukh belong, and it seems like the academy is going to be going back to their roots in the village outside of Lviv. But you mentioned the Karpaty's rival to become the third power, their Polissya. Now they've been involved in some rather unsavoury news over this window that has sort of darkened the tone of Ukrainian football in a non-competitive light, which is changing its negative traits over the last couple of years. Your friend Andrew Makouana, it's not looked good, and it doesn't seem to be clear what's gone on there now. Am I right?
Well, worth caveating all of this is allegedly, because of the fact that Benny Makouana fallen out of favour since his brilliant first 6 months in Ukraine last season. Got injured, obviously missed the remainder of the campaign, came back, had multiple disciplinary issues, if media's to be believed and if the club's to be believed. Evidently didn't really hit it on with Imad Dashur, the new manager. He wasn't really played. They found replacements in Nazarenko and Hryhorchuk, who became obviously the new talismans on the wing. So last week, Benny Makouana posted a carousel on Instagram saying, "Thank you very much for my time in Ukraine. I love Ukraine. I love Polissya. Thank you very much." Then, I think a day after that, came out a story from Ihor Burbas, who is kind of becoming infamous at the moment for certain stories and all that kind of thing. He said that Benny Makouana had apparently had his passport taken away from him towards the end of last year, just before the winter break, so he wasn't able to go anywhere. However, there was no context as why the passport was taken away from him, because what I don't really understand what that was meant to achieve in a basic to not let him leave Ukraine when everyone else has gone on holiday. Seems a bit weird, especially foreign players who are allowed to leave the country. Then Tribuna actually contacted Makouana, asked him. He stated that it was true and that he's filed a complaint with UAF about it. And UAF has also confirmed to Tribuna that the complaint has been received. Polissya, in turn, also posted a statement saying that this is not true. They deny all accusations. And then they just said that Makouana was problematic, had lots of disciplinary issues. However, he remains under contract at Polissya and they expect to see him back with the club. So the question is what are we going to see with that? Every day you see some random rumours that he's going to like Kazakhstan or Israel or somewhere else, or even LNZ. What's going to happen? No idea. But I feel that probably we aren't going to be seeing him in a Polissya kit again, at least in the near future, because he's currently, I think, back home in Congo, and I don't think he's probably going to be planning on returning to Ukraine unless it's maybe going to LNZ under a new manager and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, problematic times.
Just a shout out to, sorry, Andrew, just a quick shout out to LNZ fans. We don't all in this pod consider them lower than Kazakhstan and Israeli clubs.
Well, they actually are. Yeah, they're not doing too bad. But aside from that evident controversy, which I'm sure that we'll find out more updates maybe in the next episode, Polissya, in my opinion, are competing right now probably for the best window thus far. They've not officially assigned him as time of recording, but probably will do in due course, of Facundo Batista, who is a Uruguayan centre forward, been playing at Peñarol recently. I think his parent club was a Mexican side. 25, 26-year-old. Not prolific, but he seems to be quite a good profile of player. Scores a fair few goals, and maybe something that can actually finally help Polissya click, because I think that's what they've been lacking, a consistent goal scorer. They let Krupskyi go in the summer. Luis Hernandez not really been at it. Apparently he might be leaving some point soon. So let's see what he can bring. He looks kind of like a proper action figure style looks wise. So fingers crossed that he will actually be able to bring in maybe some of that prolific goal scoring form that we've kind of been lacking in the UPL of late, aside from Vladislav Vanat, really. They've also signed a couple of Israelis in midfield, and as we've mentioned already, Alexander Andriyevskyi, who's been good value himself as well. And I'm sure that they probably are going to be bringing in some more players before the end, because I think they are desperate to try and at least secure either a cup win or maybe even that second spot if they somehow can do it.
And that would be the second Uruguayan in a long time in Ukrainian football, if not the first two. Because additionally to that, spending a fair share of time in South America, Uruguay is considered South American Switzerland, especially compared to the neighboring countries. Hence, players moving to Ukraine from this championship raises questions. And Peñarol is a successful Copa Libertadores side, well, more or less. That's why I would love to hear more of that guy. And Batista is a very football last name in Ukraine. We knew who was who used this nickname before.
Now, how does Wayne Rooney's managerial career impact on Alexandria's transfer policy this winter?
Is it something to do with Kalyuzhnyi, the man himself?
Hey, you've got me there. You've got me.
Where's Wayne Rooney come into it? He's sacking.
Yeah.
So the
makes the club a lot more appealing.
Yeah, I think that'll be again on a personal note. I'd love to see him in England, played in England, and the chance to maybe get the opportunity to watch him, but also getting that move out of the UPL and into English football to better his career, to better his chances in the national team. I just think it would be all round a positive move for everyone, including myself, more than anyone.
It would definitely be the first ever Kerala Blasters player to appear in the English leagues.
I want to add there, lots of interesting coalescing thing going on with this move. Kalyuzhnyi, right now, he's got 6 months left on his contract. It expires in the summer. There's still apparently talks going on with Alexandria is he going to extend or whatever. But realistically, Kalyuzhnyi could sign a pre-contract with Plymouth. The only issue is right now is that Plymouth currently are bottom of the championship. Not too far off safety. I think it's only a couple of points or something like that. And they've got a brand new manager who's gone viral for a very, let's say, emphatic first team talk. He's Austrian Bosnian manager of Cercle Bruges up until December, and now he is over there. They've not had the best of starts under him. 1-1, I think, and a 1-0 loss to QPR at the weekend. But if he was to make it there, I think it would be very interesting. I think the only other people that are currently in for him in Ukraine, or that we know of, is Shakhtar. So it's like, will he go to Shakhtar? And with everything that we've spoken about, is that pull there, especially with the fact that his agency is Roman Zozolia, Yevhen Konoplyanka, or will he try and go for something else? Because apparently he's been linked with other leagues as well, like Germany or somewhere like that. But it seems like this particular bid is one that is very public. So Alexandria, though, they're making some movements in the window themselves. Theo Ndika, he's a French defender they've brought in. He looks interesting. Teddy Tsara, an Albanian winger, has come in. A player from Partizani, a club that Ukrainian sides have completely raided this window, by the way. I think that they could do with another attacking player because the goals kind of seem to start drying up towards the end of this first half of the season. And I think they just need to, try and maybe feed in Filipov a bit more from that perspective if they want to carry on for the race for the title at a bare minimum.
Just to clarify this Albanian vector, it has happened before, like 20 years ago, 15 years ago, we remember. And now it's resurrected for unbeknownst reasons to us. Volin was very successful in this Balkanian vector. Of course, Vorskla, right? Vorskla Naftogaz at the time. And the only few, I believe Varmen Dalku and Debatik Turi are the only two Albanians who are considered legends of Ukrainian football, at least the ones that I can recall. So not a promising one, but it's funny to hear that Partizani suffered a blow.
Yeah, especially with their players coming in from Belarus to replace them. So their clubs took an even bigger hit there. LNZ, of course, mentioned in pods before the Christmas for us, not so good vibes, but this transfer window's been reasonably good for them, and perhaps it's a contract of one of their own players, which has caused the biggest stir in the club's business this month with the young 15-year-old who's just signed his first professional contract 1 week after turning 15 as well. In my time, and now Ray, you might be able to correct me on this, but has anybody younger ever signed a professional contract with a top tier club 1 week after turning 15?
I think I should redirect this question to Andrew because Real Pharma owner's son was in the squad for his whole life. I don't remember when he debuted, maybe when he was 9, and I'm talking about senior team. So I think that was the prime example. Maybe there are more. It was one of a kind signing, and especially in Ukraine, when you immediately think that he's somebody's nephew. We'll see.
So Andrew, are you scouring the net now to find when that youngster made his debut?
No, I mean, I think at the moment the guy that's the youngest ever to debut in the UPL anyway is Dihtyar, who currently plays for Metalist, the centre back. And I think he was 15 at the time. Donik, I think it's Miroslav Donik. I always get confused with Miroslav Dodik, who is a pro-Russian leader of the Serbian separatist sort of entity inside Bosnia and Herzegovina. So it's kind of a bit confusing from that perspective. But, good to see that he's gone with the squad to Spain, which is evidently a different training camp from a lot of other Ukrainian sides going to Turkey. Bit of money there in LNZ, seem to be relatively stable. Krupskyi also in Spain. They like going there. They have been doing that for the past few years as well. But yeah, I think the main thing right now is Roman Hryhorchuk and how key he's going to be in this rebuild after evidently bringing in Carrasco in the summer. He was meant to bring some kind of Barcelona-style football. Am I right, Ray? But that didn't work out. He's got some great players in his squad. Yashari, one of the players of the first half of the season. Lots of foreign talent in there as well. A few of those African forwards are pretty good in front of goal. Olivier Thiel, of course, we all know. Plenty of potential that just needs unlocking. And I think a lot of people have been discussing this in, different YouTube channels and all that kind of thing, in articles, that Hryhorchuk is a great manager. However, when he is being faced with crazy conditions, as he had done at Chornomorets when he was there before he left, it's kind of hard to work in that atmosphere. When he was at Chornomorets the first time round, when they made it to the Europa League and all that kind of thing, that was actually when Chornomorets was pretty stable and prosperous, and they were able to sign these relatively good level players. But now I think...
Sorry, Andrew, I have to interrupt you there. Just a quick correction. Stable and prosperous, meaning Russian money involved at the time.
Well, it was money. Let's just put it at that for him. Whereas now he has got Ukrainian money, but he's back in a stable environment. So I think that the conditions should be good for him. There really can't be any excuses for him not to succeed, in my opinion, especially with how highly he's rated as a Ukrainian manager. Evidently lots of people have been speaking about him as one of potential Ukraine national team managers at some point in the future or something like that. Let's see if he can do it now that he's been given, all these conditions. And the fact of the matter that I think LNZ are planning on signing probably a few players before the end of this window. They've already signed a couple, let's say, UPL veterans. Kushnirenko, who else?
Tankovsky.
They'll probably be bringing in a few more. That's the kind of bulk, kind of typical talent that Hryhorchuk loves working with as well in recent years. Like he had Polissya. He's going to want someone who's slightly older, can help out the team. So let's see how that ends up going.
It really feels like LNZ is now an FC25 career mode team when you have to rebuild it. But you mentioned an interesting point there, Andrew. What if Ukrainian coaches are only good with terrible conditions to work in? That's what we're about to see. And I want to bet on that. I wish I wanted to bet, because I'm not a gambler, but I would love to bet on Hryhorchuk not lasting more than 6 months.
Okay, wow. Well, Reyes nailed his colours to the mast just as much as he sort of his, let's say, lack of faith in Krivbas as well. I feel that this is kind of transferable to this scenario too.
Brilliant. Now, Michael, elsewhere, what transfers have caught your eye so far this window?
Well, I know we touched on it, but I was so happy to see Polissya have like a proactive move in the transfer market. Is it that Josefi, the Israeli, Yosefi? Now, like Andrew said, they just needed something a bit more creativity to get that goals flowing. There's definitely something magic still there when you watch them, and something just needs to get brought out of them. And that Yosefi, all right, yeah, if you look at his statistics, he fell out of favour and hasn't played much for his club, but he was on loan at a team last year, Hapoel Haifa, and he had a decent goal scoring record there, and he looks like he could be a promising little player. Stetskov as well, the signing for Karpaty, I thought was probably my favourite signing, not the biggest signing, but I think it was the smartest signing of the UPL. Kushnirenko, who we were just touching on just then, like you were saying, just having that centre defensive mid, someone come in and add a bit of discipline to a team that's just all over the place at the minute. Them three were the ones that really caught my eye.
And we've got some others just to round up. Krivbas haven't really done much business, so that's why we haven't really touched on them. And Vorska are allegedly very close to bringing back the legend that is Vladislav Kulic to the team. I mean, they've been missing a potent striker, and it seems that Kulic can only do it at Poltava anyway. So, match made in heaven. And with Maximov there, those two, man, they bounce off each other. So good luck to them once that happens. Vorska have also signed a Kosovan midfielder, I forgot that Polissya have also signed a right back, I think, from Albania. So it's all, the balkanization of the UPL is well and truly underway, and let's see if they can make some profits on those players, to sell them on soon. Because I feel that Yashari, who has been very good for LNZ so far in the year that he's been in the UPL, has certainly probably got some suitors elsewhere. Just a couple ones to note. Kolos, I think they've had a bit of a few players going outwards. Bezborodko is now a free agent. He apparently might be being linked with Metalist 1925 or Bukovina or somewhere like that. They've brought in Kovtelyuk, who didn't really hit the ground running at Vorskla. Veres have signed Ihor Haratin, who had a very, very underwhelming 6 months at Kolos. Literally in the first few weeks, he fell out of favour, was playing for Kolos 2. And I feel that Veres and Haratin, that just feels like a match made in heaven. It feels like it makes sense. I don't know why, but it's kind of like the kind of where they're both at right now. It just seems to be logical.
I would
and hopefully it works.
I would have a parallel with Veres and Haratin and Leon of Mexico and James Rodriguez. That's exactly two matches that we're talking about. James, who hasn't played a full season for a while, for maybe 10 years. Leon, that is a Mexican middle table club. Same with Veres and Haratin. And Haratin is a very media guy as well. And Colas too, this team full of veterans playing as a reserve team which is supposed to be like an under 19, under 21. It's just that. And the Kovtelyuk is the guy who played in Georgia, I think, who actually knocked out Vorskla. So there you go.
Now, with all these transfers, do we feel that the market is starting to change its shape with what we've seen going on over the last few years, guys? Now, I ask you this because I saw something. Well, I won't put my opinions on it, but I did feel I should bring it to the table. And it was the top 10 best represented agencies in the Ukrainian market for this football season. Now, in 10th spot, we had the Primera Football Agency with 4 players in the league, tied actually with Special One, who 4 as well. KS Consultoria came in the 8th spot with 6 players, and Trident Counselling 8 players. Talented Birds, who I think are in the wrong industry, but have 9 players in the league. Perhaps they're all at was it Obalon Ray? I don't know. And M Sport Management there with 10 players. Alec, which is Dovbix, isn't it? That's his agency with 11 players still in the league. FAMK Group with 12. Phenomenon with 17. And then we have a slight jump up to 165 players represented by ProStar in the league. Now, yeah, it might just sound like I'm reeling off numbers here, but that's a fair share of the market and not a healthy shape of the market as well, when there's that lack of competition and one group sort of controls the league and directs it how they see fit. But with some of these players, I think the Krupskyi, am I right, Andrew, isn't part of the ProStar dynasty. And one of the rumours coming out of this is that he didn't want to be part of ProStar. And that was one of the things that has turned him away from Shakhtar in order to take his career to the next level. And perhaps are we seeing the end of ProStar's control in Ukrainian football as well, which could be for the better, could be for the worse. I am interested in your opinions, though.
I think there probably is starting a diversification of the market because, prior to the past few years, there certainly wasn't much representation of other agencies in the league. And it sort of meant that ProStar were able to sign plenty of players because they were one of the only agencies around. But now we're seeing the likes of Phenomenon coming in. We're seeing the likes of, you mentioned, Primavera, TBA agency, which is Zozdolia and Konoplyanka. They're signing big-ish players. You know, they got Kalyuzhnyi in. So I feel that most of these agencies are probably going to be building on talent. Alec, for example, they've got a lot of, I think, players in LNZ. So they're quite heavy there. FAMK, they've got a fair few in Krivbas. I think they're Nazar Voloshin's agents. So in general, it feels to me like the players, well, it feels to me like the agencies are getting a bit more market share compared to what we saw before. But it's going to take a while to compete with someone like ProStar. And I feel that it's even going to be difficult for ProStar to lose a lot of that share, for example, because of just the sheer size that they have right now. And then let's not forget, actually, Adam, there are agencies or agents that maybe don't have a company or just players representing themselves and all that kind of thing.
Or their parents and uncles.
Yes, but also that is probably not a good thing for those players themselves, because then they're going to be tapped up by whoever and everyone else. So I think this is the beginning maybe of this diversification. I think we're just going to have to wait and see over the next few years, especially with the way that the UPL is going, with the European places, with the Champions League, with how many teams qualify for Europe, how the war's going to go as well, with Donald Trump being inaugurated this week. I think it's going to matter to a number of factors. But then you also can add in, think about it, Wasserman are entering the Ukrainian market too with Konoplia. And they're obviously one of the biggest American agencies, one of the biggest agencies in the world. They've got loads of Premier League talent and elsewhere. So maybe we might be seeing more of those enter the frame too. It's certainly, I think, eye-opening, especially this window, in particular from the Krupskyi case study. But I think just that one transfer isn't enough to really substantiate that yet.
Let's just hope none of these agencies or agents are going to take away youngsters' passports.
We have to hope, especially given stories of yesteryear. Now, I mean, elsewhere there's been a little bit of news going on. Our players outside of Ukraine, who are growing in number with every passing window, have been in the headlines. Mudryk, our good friend Mudryk, he's in a tricky situation now. Where are we at time of recording? Because it seems to be to and fro and then disappears from the newspapers for a while and then rears its ugly head again. Where are we now? I mean, Andrew, I suppose you're the one to come to on this.
I mean, we're not in anywhere officially. Let's put it at that. Nothing's come out in terms of updates from the last episode we recorded, which was a month ago. Maresca was asked last week, does he have any updates? He says no, the club continue to support the player, but he has no new information to add. However, obviously from Ukraine, there have been plenty of new updates on this story. And it seems from Ihor Burbas, who seems to have close connections to, the Mudryk camp from the stories that he's coming out with. The main line that they're going with, allegedly, the lawyers per se, is apparently going to be connected to Mudryk being injected into his knee due to a knee injury whilst he was on Ukraine duty with cow stem cells or some kind of thing that's some kind of substance that involves cow stem cells, and the cow stem cells came from cows that could be potentially contaminated with meldonium, which is a bad substance. It's all, I think it's nothing to do with like performance enhancing. It's more to do with recovery, as far as I'm aware, from like what the purpose of the injection is for. but that apparently is what's happening right now. There have been other rumours, of sort of sabotage and all that kind of thing, but that's kind of been dismissed over the past few weeks, and we're still waiting on the B sample. However, the fact that he's gone for the B sample means that if it's given positive from the B sample, he's going to be given 4 years automatically, and then from there you go backwards in the appeal process. Paul Pogba, he was done for something completely different, testosterone, which is, I guess, performance enhancing. He obviously got given 4 years initially, and then that got down to 18 months. Whereas Mudryk, we've got no idea what it could be shortened to, whether he's going to be given it, but everything's leading from all media reports. It's leading towards the fact that he's going to get a ban, and then they're going to have to try and cut it with the appeals. Been going about his life, which I feel is not that problematic, in my opinion. He's not playing. What's he meant to be doing? Just locked in a room in his house and just staying in there. I think that's a bit unfair, in my opinion. Yeah, just let him go to the boxing, let him go to Anatoly Trubin's wedding, who's one of his best mates from, the early days of Shakhtar Academy. I think he went somewhere else recently to get his teeth done or something like that. That's just, he's going about his life. He's not got football to play. You can't train at Chelsea. You can obviously keep up his fitness and all that, and just hope that he's back sooner rather than later. But I don't really think that there's going to really be anything new or even interesting to come out of any of this in the near future, sadly. We're just going to have to deal with the gap at left wing and somehow plug it for the national team. Which brings me on to the fact that just a quick update on the national team and everything revolving around that. Belgium have sacked Dominic Tedesco. So he will not be in charge, sadly. I think everyone's gutted about that. But positives, Julien Lopetegui might be the new Belgian manager in March, which could be positive because he's had a relative shit show at West Ham. He didn't do too well at Spain. Well, he left Spain on the eve of the World Cup. So it just shows that he's got his own problems. There's been problems in the dressing room that he's had at West Ham in particular. So that could cause problems for Spain. I think they're trying to go down the Roberto Martinez route. That didn't really work out in the end with their golden generation. Didn't win anything, did it? And they're currently in a bit of a crisis themselves. So let's see. Rumours that Spain is going to be the location for the home leg of the Belgium tie. Murcia being rumoured, where Ukraine under-21s played one of their under-21 qualifiers last year. And some of our players are in good form, or starting the year as they mean to go on. Let's put it at that. Hankov's back from injury, got an assist at the weekend. Dovbik's back scoring in games. He's, I think, finally settling into the system that Ranieri wants to play. He's doing quite well with hold up, nodding down balls, touching down balls from goal kicks and starting attacks from there, getting on the end tap-ins. Oh, wow, he's not scoring from 25 yards out or turning 3 players and finishing in the bottom corner, but he's still scoring, so that's a good thing. He's now on 11 goals for the season in all competitions. For Roma, fair play. Hopefully he can end the season 20 plus. I think that would be a success at a bare minimum. And even Yaremchuk, I think Ray mentioned it earlier, he has scored in this calendar year, his first goal since, I think, August for his club side, that is, and only his second one, and he scored against a former Russian national team goalkeeper. So all the more sweeter. Let's see if he even stays at Olympiacos, because there's been rumours that he might be going somewhere. Evidently, he's not first choice at Olympiacos. It would be good to see him get some minutes. Every time there is an injury crisis at a Premier League side, I like to quote tweet the information about that and say, maybe Yaremchuk could be loaned in for that. But evidently that seems extremely unlikely right now.
Could he join Kalyuzhnyi at Plymouth?
Well, there we go.
The best League One squad ever.
Yeah, exactly. For 2025, 26.
Yeah.
No, of course, that's ended there on a light-hearted note. Rob, before we go, listeners, those of you in North America, would love to hear your views on Krupskyi turning down the move to the MLS for wanting to stay in Europe. Do you think he was right? And do you think the MLS holds a place for future Ukrainian national team players? And for everyone, Hryhorchuk, where will he end up? Plymouth, West Ham, or Bournemouth? Andrew is doing his best to bring him into English leagues. Which club do you think is best for him? Please put your answers in Twitter or on Instagram or wherever else you jump onto the links to this podcast. Until the next time, everyone, we'll keep watching the news and look forward to discussing it in our next episode. So stay safe, take care, and goodbye for now. Bye-bye.
Czerwona galina pochyliła się.